Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Tip Tuesday. Today I'm actually answering two subscribers' questions. They have the same question, and one of them messaged me on Facebook, I think, and the other one actually emailed me. They both sent me photos of a very similar fitting issue. So, what the issue is getting wrinkles above your bust coming out of your armhole, and then also across the side seam pointing to the bust. So it almost looks like there's a big handful of wrinkles here. And I was thinking about it, and I decided to try to reproduce those wrinkles on myself so I could understand where they were coming from. So if I stand up, you can see I'm wearing this very attractive gray t-shirt. I pinned up the center front to take it in here. I also did the same in the back. So you can see I made the whole back narrower. And then the other thing I did was on this side, I pulled down my shoulder seam. So now my shoulder seam on this side of my body is hanging off my shoulder, and you can see doing that, it accentuates those wrinkles. Okay, so I wasn't able to produce as many as of one of the ladies who sent me a photo, but I did recreate that wrinkle in that area. And actually, just to give you full disclosure, when I'm researching fitting things, I love Jan Minot's fitting method and pattern making method. I have her pants and her bodice books. They're out of print, so you have to find them on like eBay, but they're really useful. So I looked in here, and if I go to page 49, you can see here I was looking for a similar wrinkle before I created it on myself, and you can see if there's wrinkles above the bust and coming from the armhole, the symptoms are the front and or back or both are too narrow. So that was the first thing I looked at. Another thing that I like to look at when I'm fitting is this book here, this multi-method approach, and this has a ton of information in it. You can get this on Amazon. I'll put a link to it. The reason why I like this book is because it will tell you fitting issues by body shape. And the only wrinkle I could find in here that was similar to the wrinkles I'm reproducing for myself was a prominent bust. In the prominent bust section, you can see they're drawing wrinkles that are very similar to what I have here. So after researching that, I pinned up my shirt to create them on myself. And again, I want to show you here, if I bring my shoulders, my armhole seam off my shoulder, making my shoulder seam like too long, it accentuates these wrinkles coming from under the arm. So I think there's two things going on here, and I'm just going to take off all the pins and put my shirt on without the pins so you can see how it fits me. So now let's take a close look at this picture here. So there's really two things going on, and this is, I think, a very common thing to have happen if you're working with a new pattern or you're not like super familiar with fitting or picking a size. You can see here that the shoulder is hanging off the ball of the shoulder, and it's just too loose through the high bust and chest. But then if you look and see across the bust, there are stress wrinkles pulling across here. All right, so that tells me two things. And again, this is very common. Up here at the high bust or chest, the shirt is too big. And then going through the full bust, it's too small. And it could be that the back is too small. Okay, so you really have to look at what's going on with your shirt really carefully. Like look at the back and see if it's snug across the back, or if it's snug across the front, or it could be snug in the front and the back. Before I start talking about how to fix the pattern pieces to smooth out these wrinkles across the side and around the sleeve, I want to just make a few suggestions when you're working with a new pattern that's not tried and true. If you give yourself extra seam allowances on just the side seams, that will give you the ability to let out areas that might be too snug. And that way you can actually save a top instead of having to scrap a top. Another thing is, if you make the muslin and you did give yourself extra, I would say 1 inch. So if you're working with a pattern that has a 1/4 inch seam allowance because it's a knit top, just baste it together on your sewing machine using 1 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then you can see how it fits and you can let it out if you need to. And the cool thing is you can let out just the front or just the back or both. And then if it works out that the size you picked is too big through the upper bust or chest area, all you have to do is take off the sleeve from notch to notch across the top of the sleeve cap and just trim off the extra length and sew the sleeve back on. So you can get more done with a muslin, or if you made a test t-shirt that you wanted to wear, by just adding that extra on the side seams, because you can always take in on fabric, you can't let out. So having said that, the other thing I would also recommend is, if you're working with a pattern, you can physically measure between your armholes on your body and then along the center front to the armhole on your pattern, just to make sure that you're picking a size that's not going to be too big through the high bust. And a lot of times, you know, people pick out a pattern that fits through their bust and then it's too big here. So if you measure the pattern, let me show you the two places that you can measure. So if you measure across here, okay, and then measure across here, somewhere like right underneath the neckline, that's going to give you a good idea on, you know, how it's going to fit you. You obviously have to times these by 2 and just take off the little seam allowance here. And then you can compare it to your body measurement to see if that's close. And then if you want to check your bust measurement, a good place to check that is about 2 inches under the armhole, because that's approximately where most people's full bust is going to end up, somewhere near there. And again, you want to get rid of the seam allowances and then times these measurements by 2 if you're working with a half pattern. So let's say the bust measurement agrees, but the high bust measurement is too big on your pattern. Well, one option you have before you even do any fitting is to grade yourself to the next smaller size from, I would say, from the notch on the front sleeve up to the shoulder, and from the notch on the back sleeve up to the shoulder. So technically, or simply, you could just, let's pretend our notch is here. Here's my back. Here's my front. So you could just grade yourself to that next size. And if you want to not adjust the sleeve cap for now, just take off this little bit right here. And that way you're giving yourself a little bit of a smaller size where you need it. So those are some tips just to get your pattern in shape. But let's say you did all that, now you have these wrinkles. Let me show you how to fix your pattern to smooth them. The first step is we're going to shorten the shoulder. And the easy way to do that, I'll start in the back, is to draw yourself a vertical line. Draw yourself a vertical line from the center of the shoulder down to approximately the middle of the armhole, or somewhere where the armhole is vertical. Don't go where the curve is, because that makes a truing up disaster. And remember, we just want to get the fabric up onto your shoulder. So really we're dealing with this area. So I'm going to cut this out. And actually, before I cut it out, let me just make a mark. Let's say I want to shorten my shoulder 1/2 inch. I'm just going to make a 1/2 inch mark like that right there. And actually, let me just make a dashed line. Let's say we need to move it in this much. So I'm going to cut this out. And I'm just going to slide it over. Okay, I'm not changing anything vertically. I'm just sliding it right on that pink line. And then I'm just going to tape it together. All right, and you can see we have a little bit of a truing up issue here. So what I'm going to do in a different color is I'm going to find the middle of the adjustment. So let's say right there. And then I'm going to blend, trim a little bit off the under part, and then just very gently, gradually add a little bit to the armhole above the adjustment. So now that's trued up. We've adjusted the shoulder back on so it'll be on your shoulder. And then of course we want to do the exact same thing to the front, because if you adjust one shoulder seam, you have to adjust both shoulder seams because those sew together. So again, I'm just gonna make myself a little adjustment line here. And I will just cut that out. And just slide that over. All right, so that will get us much closer to a better fit already. Let me just true that up. All right, so that's trued up. The next issue we have to work with is creating enough room to wrap around your body to ease those wrinkles that are going across your side seam here. And the first thing I would do is, if you have a muslin, let out that side seam at right, like take out the bottom of the sleeve and then take out the side seam at the very top and let it relax and see if you need to add to the base of the armhole in addition to just the side seams. So letting out your side seams, and I would just do one side. Okay, so just do one side, let it out, take out your sleeve on the bottom, take out the side seam through your bust, and let it relax and see, you know, how much you need to add. Okay, and the way you can control the spread is to, you know, use some Scotch tape and, you know, maybe tape it shut so you're not letting it just flop open. And that will tell you if you need to add to the base of the armhole or if it's just a matter of letting the side seams out below the armhole. So if you need to add to the base of the armhole, that's really easy. You can just extend your armhole, okay, and then come down, and then let's say, just for, you know, just for visual purposes here, I'm going to draw a bust shape. So the apex is very close to usually around 2 inches below your armhole, but somewhere in this area. So by the time I get below the bust, I can start to bring that back in. Okay, and I can do that in the back and I can do it in the front. Now, based on your, oh, I drew my bust in the back, but you know what I mean. It's over here. I'm sorry. So here's my bust really. I'm sorry. But this is bust level in the back. Let's say that. But in any case, you can add here and that will relax that part of your shirt and then it will fit better. You know, and letting out your side seams might also show you whether or not it's, you know, sometimes it's just the back. Your front might fit fine, but if it's pulling from the back, it can cause those wrinkles here too. So, you know, take out your side seam and sort of let it spread and see. Another option is you can actually tape each edge to your bra, the side of your bra. So I'm just trying to think of ways to keep that from just gaping open. But that's going to give you a good idea. And like I said, if you have to add to the base of your armhole, just do it there and continue on. You know, just sort of add a little bit. Now, if you don't have to add, if keeping the base of your armhole the same and it's really just a little bit lower that you need more room through the actual fullest part of your bust, then you don't need to worry about the sleeve, because if you do this, we're going to have to add to the wings of the sleeve. So before I move on to a different topic, let me just show you that. I'm just going to use this little piece of paper here and draw. Here's a sleeve, oops, here's a sleeve cap. Okay, so if you add to the base of your armhole, then the base of the armhole here is right here. Okay, so you would just add here and here. So that would fix your sleeve. I know I'm doing all these lovely colors here, but basically this adjustment would agree with this if you need room through the base of your armhole. So I have a second set of fronts and backs here, and I just want to show you, if you just need to add to the actual side seam underneath the base of the armhole, you can just add it like this. You know, so just gradually come out. And there are certain full bust adjustment techniques that after you do them, the front actually has sort of a shape to it like this. So again, if let me just draw through here. That's our apex, our bust, you know, something like this. Oops. So sometimes if you just curve out your side seams in the front and then ease that into the back, that's enough of an adjustment. Or it may be that you have to also add to the back. And I think what I would do, you know, is just, you know, start adding and then just come down and maybe go all the way down to the hem and then try that on and see how it looks. Because if you have to add here, sometimes it's hard to start adding at the top of your side seam and then blend back in without creating a funny shape. So in the front, it's okay to have a little bit of a curve here to your side seam. In the back, if you have to add, I would just go all the way down. You know, just start adding, and then once you get out to what you need, just mirror that amount all the way down to the hem. And then once you try your newly adjusted top on, you can always take that in if you need to in places, just to make it easy. So those are the two different ways that you can add room. You know, it's really just a matter of adding room. You know, if your shirt is snug. Like I pinned it in the back, I pinned it all the way down. It could be that the back is completely snug, and if the back of your neckline feels like it's tight, you can also just add some right down the center back. Okay, so sometimes the back might just be, too small, so you could add all the way down the back. That's another option. I wouldn't go from 0 at the neckline out though, because then you'd be throwing your grain line off. So if the back feels snug from your neckline all the way down to the hem, you can just extend it a little bit here. But if it's, if it's more of an issue at bust level, I would add to the side seam. I was going to show you some clever ways to slice and dice and add the extra ease, but really for this adjustment, I really think it's just a matter of kneading it to add more depth front to back. So adding on the side, in this case, I think will fix the issue. All right, so that's my little tutorial on how to fix wrinkles that are coming out of your armhole. Well, they look like they're coming out of your armhole, either above your bust or under your bust or to the side of your bust. Just remember, it's all about creating enough fabric so it'll wrap around the sides without stressing and pulling. So if you have any questions about that, please post them below and I will help you. I want to thank everybody for watching my Fit Tip Tuesday videos. I really have a fun time making them. I love, researching and trying to figure out how to fix wrinkles when people send me pictures. So I'm having a lot of fun working on these. On Friday, we will be having a FabFit Friday, and I'm going to keep the topic a little bit of a secret until Friday. You'll have to join me to see what I'm working on. I have a couple different things I'm working on, so I'm not 100% sure which one I want to share with you. So anyway, I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. I'll see you on Friday. And again, thank you so much for watching.